Hi everyone, are you in a reading slump? Did you make a resolution to read more books this year and you don't know where to start? I got you. I'm going to give you a bunch of recommendations. I will link all the books in my link tree, which is below, and let's get into it. Okay, so some of the books I'm going to talk about today, I've talked about in other videos, so you might see some repeats, but these are all books that I think would be easy to pick up and finish and get you out of a reading slump. There's a lot of talk right now about how people should be reading what they want to read, what interests them, not what other people tell you to read, not what TikTok tells you to read, and not what the canon says are the books worth reading. The bottom line is read what interests you, and I will try to kind of cover a large gamut of interest in this video. If you like romance, or you think you might like to start romance, that might be a good place to start. I've talked about it before, but I recommend Book Lovers by Emily Henry or Love Theoretically by Ali Hazelwood. They're both really easily digestible books. They're fast-paced, they're titillating, they're lovely. But just so you know, Ali Hazelwood also has a trilogy of short romances, which I'll put right here. These books are like little nuggets, so if you just want to try to get back into reading by reading something short, give those a try. Do you like a fast-paced thriller that you can't put down? I recommend The Island by Adrian McKinty. I think I read this in one sitting. I also recommend two books by Riley Sager, who I think is a very accessible author, and his books are fun. I would recommend Lock Every Door, and especially Survive the Night. That one is like, boom, we'll get right through that, and it's really fun. If you're a fan of a good mystery, I would say anything by Lisa Jewell, but also a series that I really loved that I thought was very accessible and fun and not as gruesome or disturbing as some other ones is The Good Girl's Guide to Murder by Holly Jackson. And there were two other books after that that were all really good. Do you love ghosts and creepiness? I recommend A Head Full of Ghosts by Paul Tremblay, which I've talked about before in another video, but I would also recommend Home Before Dark by Riley Sager. Do you want a book with a twist that you don't see coming? I recommend Rock, Paper, Scissors by Alice Feeney, The Silent Patient by Alex Michaelides. And at this point, you probably know what the twist is, but if you haven't read it, you gotta read Gone Girl. Even if you know what happens in Gone Girl, just so good. Gone Girl got me out of a reading slump, and I've never looked back. Do you want your heart warmed? I've talked about The Wishing Game by Meg Schaefer, and I've also talked about Remarkably Bright Creatures by Shelby Van Pelt. I would also add to this list a book that I think the author may be considered a little bit problematic, but it's still a really, really good book, and it's called The House in the Cerulean Sea by T.J. Klune. That one's a little bit on the fantasy side, but it's really hard not to fall in love with it. Do you like fantasy, or do you think you might want to try it? I recommend A Court of Thorn and Roses because it is a very good gateway to fantasy that's easy to digest, and you'll become obsessed. And the nice thing about it is you'll find a very large online community that is into it also. I also talked about Divine Rivals recently, which is YA, but it is just very lovely. But if you want to read one that isn't a series, a standalone, I recommend The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. That one also got me out of a reading slump. Do you want your heart broken in a really good way? Do you need a good cry? I recommend Mad Honey by Jodi Picoult and Jennifer Finney Boylan, and The Patron Saints of Nothing by Randy Rebay. Do you want a book that's easy to read but very thought-provoking? I recommend The One by John Mars. I recommend This Time Tomorrow by Emma Straub. Oh, so good. And The Measure by Nikki Ehrlich, which was my favorite book of 2021. And The Midnight Library by Matt Haig. So good. Mwah. That one had the added bonus for me of making me reevaluate my life and really be grateful for the life I have. If you want to try out audiobooks but aren't sure if you like them, I recommend starting with finding a person you like and reading their memoir that's read by that person. For example, my first foray into audiobooks was Bossy Pants by Tina Fey, and listening to her read her own jokes was amazing. I also loved Is Everyone Hanging Out Without Me by Mindy Kaling, and I'm Just a Person by Tig Notaro. That is so good. And finally, there's one author that really helps me break some reading slumps. I have loved every one of her books. She is a fantastic, fantastic author, and her books are accessible and really good. It's Taylor Jenkins Reid. Her books have everything. They're high interest, they have really strong characters, they have cathartic, emotional parts. They also have the feeling of reading something epic that kind of flies by and is really easy to get through. My two favorites by her are The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo and Daisy Jones and the Six. One is about like old Hollywood glamour and following an actress through her life, and the other is like kind of a behind the music episode of Fleetwood Mac. Both so good. I heard the TV series of Daisy Jones and the Six is really good. I haven't actually watched it yet. The extra bonus of those two books is that a lot of people have read them, and so if you're looking for somebody to talk about them with, you'll probably find someone. Okay, and so that's it. I hope that this has been helpful to you. If you do read any of these, please let me know how you liked them, or if you have other recommendations, please let me know that as well. All right, and that's the look. I hope that you've enjoyed this, and I'll see you next time. Okay.